July 3rd. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, we talk about Power Grid.
Let's do this. So yesterday, I was debating whether to upgrade my computer or buy a new one. And I decided to upgrade, so I ordered some RAM and a hard drive from Newegg. And I paid for the normal $4 UPS shipping. $4. Hard drive showed up today. Ordered it yesterday.
Today.
It was there when I got home. The RAM will be here. I don't know if it'll be here tomorrow because I don't know if UPS works on Independence Day. They may or may not. But if not, it'll be here Thursday. Damn. That's all I got to say.
You know, I've never in my life paid for expedited shipping because everything always comes real quick. Maybe it's just because we live in the Northeast. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it also depends on who's shipping it and where they're shipping it from. I mean, because the hard drive was from New Jersey, I found out. That's why it got here so fast. The RAM is from California, so it's going to take a day or two more.
Actually, you know what? I had the same deal. My case and power supply came from New Jersey and were here the next day when I ordered my computer. The rest of it took 4 days because it came from California.
Yep. And also, like, DHL sends my comic books. They take, like, 4 days from, I think, Indiana. Meanwhile, FedEx from California or UPS from California is faster than DHL from Indiana.
At any rate, expect us to be playing some PC games now that we both have generally functioning computers.
Maybe.
Well, I will be. I'm playing Half-Life 2, and I gotta tell you.
It's awesome.
It is meeting and or exceeding all expectations thus far, and I've played it for an hour and 5 minutes.
I gotta play it again. Maybe what I'll do is I'll play episode 0, 1 and 2, all big row.
Might be a good idea.
And maybe I could time it so that I finish episode 1 like the day episode 2 comes out or something like that.
Now I'm holding out because real soon I'm getting either the 20-inch or the 22-inch widescreen, and I really want to play the game in the widescreen awesome.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. So, I ran from work to the train today because, tomorrow's Independence Day in the United States, the day of the Declaration of Independence signing, supposedly. I guess we don't know 100%, but it probably is. That's the date they wrote on it, right? Yeah. Anyway.
Continue.
The calendar could be off. It's an old 1700s calendar. You can't trust those things. We don't know the year 0 was the actual day Jesus was born, if there was such a person.
Well, we've got an idea.
We got an idea, but not a perfect idea. Anyway, so that means I don't have to work tomorrow. So getting home sooner makes a big difference because it adds to my one-day, middle-of-the-week vacation.
All right.
So I tried to get on the 5:09 instead of the 5:28, which usually gets me home about 20 minutes earlier.
I do notice you came home about the same time you always do.
Yep. Well, I'm sitting on the train, and it's going. I made the 5:09. I had to run. I got on it at 5:07. And somewhere right before the Riverdale station, some lady in the car is screaming. And I'm like, what the hell?
Uh-huh.
And everyone's like, what the hell?
Because I just want to point out that I ride a different train on the same line, and there were a bunch of cops on my train and at a bunch of the stations as I was going up.
No.
Not related?
No.
Okay, I just wondered.
So, she was screaming something. And I guess it must have been her daughter. She looked like a grandma. And her daughter was like, oh, what's the problem? Eek, eek, eek. And then I guess the daughter also had small children. And apparently this lady was having, I don't know, a heart attack, a stroke, a diabetic shock, or something. All right? And, the daughter tried to go for the emergency brake thing. No, and I was like, no! Because I was sitting at the end. And I was like, no, I didn't let her do it.
Good for you. You probably saved a life. Hitting that brake is probably the worst thing you could ever do in an emergency.
For anyone on a train, ever. There's a thing in the train. It says emergency brake.
They're all over. They're between the cars. They're usually a glass thing. They're hidden under seats. There's a lot of them.
They're usually red handles that you can pull to activate the emergency brake. Never, under almost any circumstance, should you ever pull that thing, ever. Even if it's the worst emergency ever, like nuclear bomb, don't pull it. Do not pull it.
Now, part of the reason is that that is the last chance brake. That is the emergency brake. It's not like in your car where it's also the parking brake. If you pull that, all shit breaks loose and all bets are off. Also, that train's stopping and not going anywhere for a long time.
Yes, the way the emergency brake, first of all, basically The reason they have those brakes at all is, let's say your train car gets loose and is just rolling down the track. You have a way to stop. That's pretty much the only reasonable circumstance in which you would ever pull that thing.
I mean, granted, there are different mechanisms and all sorts of stuff.
Yes.
It's actually kind of interesting how those brakes work, but we're not going to get into that.
But if you pull that thing, the brake activates and cannot be deactivated without powerful machinery. You will be sitting in that train car for a long time.
Also, even if it was
a normal
one.
brake, now you're stuck in the middle of nowhere as opposed to at a train station.
Yeah, see, it always bothers me how so many people just lose their head whenever something bad happens. And instead of doing the logical thing, which is, all right, alert the conductor. There'll be paramedics waiting at the next train station.
Yep.
Guaranteed.
Actually, we got to Yonkers before the paramedics got there.
Really?
Yeah. After I stopped the lady
actually, Riverdale's like right there. So.
I know, but basically I called 911 after I stopped the lady from pulling the thing. And everyone else was going, is there a doctor on the train? And I'm just talking to the 911 operator, and he's like, all right, so what station are you at? And I'm like, And then I see Riverdale go by, and I'm like, Riverdale.
Nah.
And then he's like, what's the next stop? I'm like, I have no idea. Not a clue.
Yeah.
And he's like, could I talk to the conductor? And the conductor wasn't even there yet at that point. And then the conductor was like, yeah, I'll talk to my dispatcher first. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Wow.
And then the 911 guy eventually didn't want to talk to me anymore, and we waited at Yonkers for like 20 minutes. Thus, I could have gotten on the 528 train and been fine, but no.
You probably could have caught any number of trains from Yonkers. Did they make you stay on the train, or could you have gotten off?
We were all staying on the train, and
But could you have gotten off?
There was no train past us while we were sitting there.
Oh, must have just been bad timing.
Yeah. So that was that.
Oh, well. You saved a life.
No,
Probably.
I don't know if I really
Possibly.
saved a life.
No, think about it. If she had pulled that brake, you know how hard it would have been for any sort of EMT to get to that train?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If she pulled the brake, the lady sitting across from me also didn't let her pull the brake, so.
I mean, one, there are signs everywhere saying, don't ever pull this brake ever.
Yep.
Not for you.
It's not for you ever.
But on the other hand, it seems like whenever people panic, they look around, and if there's anything red or looks like it's an emergency thing, they'll hit any emergency button they see. But they never think to do the logical thing of stop, assess the situation, call 911 if appropriate.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah. I guess we're pretty cool-headed.
When they took the lady off the train, she was not dead. She was kind of unconscious-ish, but not dead, so.
Wow, well, that beats the hell out of my leader bit, so I'll just keep quiet.
That's right.
So, speaking of racism.
It's racism. Damn those black trains.
No, it's those
red handles.
It's those red Connecticut trains.
Yeah.
Those are always the nastiest trains, too.
Well, because they use the overhead electricity.
Well, no, I mean...
not to mention the fact, if you stop that train in Riverdale, not only can the EMTs not get their little EMT ambulance out there, you can't turn off the third rail.
Plus, I mean, think about it.
They'll die trying to get to the train.
It's not like it was going to be stopped at a station. It was going to be stopped... I mean, the train tracks down in New York there on the Hudson Line. On one side is the Hudson River, usually like 5 feet away from the train.
Yep.
And on the other side is usually a cliff. There's no access.
Yeah, well, this was before Yonkers, but even so, yes, if you pull it and the train is stuck between a cliff and the river, they're going to need helicopters and boats, and you're going to be waiting.
All right. So anyway, speaking of racism, I'm sure you're all familiar with John Gabriel's greater internet fuckwad theory. If you're not, I've linked to it.
I think it's become, at this point, John Gabriel's greater internet fuckwad law.
Possibly. Because I have yet, suffice to say, this theory states that if you take a normal person and you add to this normal person anonymity and an audience of any size, they will inevitably, over time, become a total fuckwad.
Yeah.
Now, the term for both this process and for the resulting items that happen of interest is shitcock. Shitcocking, shitcockery.
Yep.
We actually ran a Counter-Strike server a long time ago that we named Shitcocklistan because we kicked anyone who shitcocked. But
that resulted in quite an empty server.
Yes, it did. Because, you know what? I gotta say, shitcocking in Counter-Strike is much like cheating at euchre. The game's not the same if you don't do it.
That's right.
Right. So, we're used to this. We've been playing Counter-Strike, And not a day goes by in my life where I'm not called a gay homosexual lizard by some sort of 12 to 12 and a half year old kid.
At least they're honest.
Now, it seems like people who use... I'm just skipping right over that. I'm just not even going to dignify that with a response.
All right.
So, this is endemic on the internet. This happens. You have to deal with it. The internet is the wild, wild west. And there are very few places where you can escape from this. Anywhere you can in any way manipulate anything that any other person will ever see, hordes of people, Scott and I included, will do everything within their power to make it resemble a penis.
Yeah, that is also true.
Go on to Mario Kart and play Mario Kart. Everyone can make the little custom icon. Mine is Crazy Bunta. I can't describe
Boo.
to you the sheer number of phalluses that I encountered playing that game. Some black ones, some white ones. One of them was oozing. One of them was pointed right at me.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any game that actually lets you make an avatar, penises abound. Of any kind.
No, not just
people
penises.
can put decals on the Pokeballs that they can draw. Can you actually draw them, or do you have to collect them?
I think you have to collect them.
But if they let you draw the decals for your Pokeballs, people would have these Poke Penis balls.
I mean, that's just the way the internet is. If you want an example of this, go to YouTube and look at any comments.
Go to any Oakaki board. You will see penises.
Oh, God. Any shared space on the internet. Second Life has a lot of...
You know that thing where it's like it simulates a refrigerator with the alphabet magnets on it?
I spent a long time...
And everyone kind of shares the same refrigerator?
I remember one time I was there when these things first started getting popular at RIT, and I was trying to construct a penis by taking all the letters and drawing them in the shape of a penis. Someone else was trying to write the word fuck as many times as he could, and he kept stealing my letters.
Yeah, I like the people who just grab as many letters they could and put them in the corner in a giant stack, making it really hard to do anything.
But that's the way the internet works. And you gotta have a little bit of a thick skin. If you want to be on the internet, and you want to be in any sort of shared space, you have to deal with the fact that you're going to be playing games with people who are named things like Snape kills Dumbledore, or penis, or my favorite was on Mario Kart. There's a man whose name, well, I guess a man, was Fuck.
Nice.
And his graphic was the word fuck written in white with a black background.
Nice.
And that was it.
Yeah, Counter-Strike sprays, all porn.
Oh, sometimes furry porn.
Yep.
Usually just straight up porn.
Yep.
Sometimes gun porn.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, many of the people using Xbox Live are not quite familiar with this law of the internet.
Oh, really?
You see, someone on Forza 2, you can customize your car. So they made the 1954 300 SL White Power Mobile. I gotta say, it's
Awesome.
pretty terrific.
Well, the guys, if the guys at, White Power, not cool, but White Power Mobile, awesome.
I highly doubt the person who did this is actually racist. I mean, it first of all, it has the SS lightning bolts on the back. It says "Real Hitler White Power." It's got the Iron Cross. It's black, like all those Nazi cars back in the day.
Yep.
But the hood has a red Nazi flag on it, complete with swastika. And the guy's name is Dreamer61, so...
That's a pretty cool thing there. Because as much as Nazis are the worst, I mean, Indiana Jones wouldn't be cool if it didn't have Nazis in it.
I mean,
you got to look at it that way.
I hate Illinois Nazis as much as the rest of you, but I do not condone Jake and Elwood's actions in regards to those Illinois Nazis.
I do, but...
Well, I enjoy their actions.
Exactly.
I do not feel sympathy for the people those actions were directed toward. However, I don't condone them because freedom of speech.
The thing is they're blocking the road.
Yeah, but they had a permit.
You don't have a permit to block the road.
They did in the movie. Remember, the cop was like, they got a permit.
I thought that was a permit to protest, not to block the road.
They were allowed to the point was the cop wasn't getting rid of them, so
That's
they
right.
obviously had some sort of...
No, the cop sucked, and cop was probably one of them.
No, because he didn't like the Nazis.
No, he didn't. Oh, well.
All right, if you guys don't know what we're talking about right now, get off my podcast.
That's right.
Anyway, I find this hilarious, and I gotta say, the reason I find it interesting is that there's a shitstorm on the internet. How dare Microsoft let this stand? How dare they let this be here? They should do something about it.
Oh, you don't want your free speech? Fine, shut up.
Now, the best part is, all the people who are so mad about this cite the terms of service, which state that you can't have hate literature on Xbox Live.
It's not hate literature.
or anything like that. If you read the terms of service, this kind of thing is pretty specifically
But
disallowed.
I don't think it's hateful. I think it's humorous.
Now, regardless, the actual things they've got here are pretty much disallowed by the terms of service.
All right.
However, I want to point out to a lot of people out there why your argument is faulty. Sure, it might be in violation of the terms of service. Just because Microsoft says you're not allowed to do X on their service does not mean they're obligated to prevent you from doing X if they don't want to, because they did not tell you or have an agreement with you saying that they would get rid of these things, or that they have to, or that you will not see these things. All they said is that they don't want you to do these things.
And if you do, they have the right to kick you off or deny you service.
But they do not have the responsibility to kick you off.
That's right.
So apparently, too, Microsoft is trying to do something about this. I think the problem is, now that this sort of thing is recognizable on the internet, the Hitler penis white power fuckwad shitcockers are growing in number.
Hooray.
And that's all I have to say about that.
All right. I probably would have used this news tomorrow, but I have more important news for tomorrow. So apparently there's a comic book store in, I think, Utah, Salt Lake City maybe, called Night Flight Comics.
Utah is not a place you want to be.
It's near the Salt Lake City main library something, all right? And someone went to this comic book store over the weekend. And
like you do.
They were looking at some Simpsons bust-ups. And basically what it is a little cardboard box, and inside is a plastic bust of a Simpsons character. And there's sort of those collectibles where you don't know which one's in there. So you buy one, you might get Bart. You buy another one, you might get Homer. You might get another Bart.
You know how many boxes of anime ones I've got all over the place?
And then you might, if you're lucky, you'll get like the Golden Moe or something. I don't know. Right?
With 2 knives.
Yeah, the chase figures. Anyway, so someone was looking at these, and they saw the lid was taped shut. And the fact that it was taped shut leads me to believe that it had been previously opened.
But that's beside the point.
Yes. Anyway, the person saw the box was taped shut. The person said, because this is all just, what the people said.
He said, she said.
Yes, that it appeared that the box had already previously been opened. So they figured there was no problem opening it and looking inside.
I will point out, I'm not saying that I disagree with this person. All I'm saying is
I haven't even got to the news
yet.
yet.
I know. All I'm saying is that specific statement reeks of someone trying to justify their actions and or get out of having possibly done something wrong. But anyway.
It's a $7 toy, right? And someone opened the lid, and the store proprietor said, basically, hey, you got to pay for that. And the people said, no, we don't, because they don't. And the store proprietor then told someone else to stand in front of the door and not let them leave.
Whoa! That's the point. That's the point I call 911 and say I'm being illegally detained.
Yep. So wait. So the store owner called 911 to tell them what was going on.
This is a genius here.
Yeah, like, hey, these people are shoplifting, opening up merchandise and refusing to pay
Wait a minute,
for
no,
it.
I'm going to translate. Here's what the 911 operator heard from this guy. Translated into...
It was a girl, I think.
The store owner.
Yep.
Here's what was what actually was said. Hi, I'd like to report that I am currently in the process of kidnapping and detaining 2 people.
Yes.
In my store.
Yep.
Please come and force me to let them go, possibly press charges against me.
So 50 minutes later, the cop showed up and said, well, you have to let these people go. And we're going to look into it and possibly charge you with illegally detaining them.
Oh, yeah. See,
I like it when a cop knows the law.
In most places in the United States, first off, anyone who says they have a break it, you bought it policy or anything like that
is full of shit.
There's nothing they can do about it unless they can prove that you did it willfully.
And if you did it willfully, that's vandalism. So
Yep.
it's completely different. If you go into a store, let's say I go into the Ferrari dealer, right? The Ferrari dealer, and I accidentally, fall over and, I don't know,
Scratch.
some chain reaction of events happens and it blows up the car. The car's ruined. That's like a $300,000 car. You know how much I'm liable to pay? 0 if I didn't do it on purpose. And if they want money, they're going to have to sue me and win, which is not going to be easy.
Yep.
So...
Yeah, I remember this almost happened to us at Kineticon last year. Not that it was any fault of Kineticons. It was the fault
did
of
it?
Remember when we're getting ready to leave, right?
Yep.
And when we'd come in the morning, there was a lady with the uniform on, and she was selling the parking tickets to everyone. And she said, all day $5. So we bought one, and everyone bought one going in. And we're trying to leave the con at the end of the night. And every person in front of us takes forever. It looks like they're arguing with the attendant. We don't know what's going on.
Oh, I remember now.
So we finally get up, we hand the ticket, and he's like, $12. So we're like, it said all day for $5. And he said, yeah, until 8 p.m. And we said, she said all day. She didn't say 8 p.m. We're not paying. And we sat there waiting for his response. Now, had he chose to not just sigh and let us go, we probably would have been calling the police right away.
Yep, because you can't keep me there. That's illegally detaining me. I will pay the $5 I agreed to pay.
Yep.
And that's it.
So if a store owner ever gives you grief like that, or ever decides to bar your way out, unless they are a peace officer, you can just leave. And if they lay a hand on you, you can sue.
Not only that, but if you're, say, leaving Best Buy, right? And they say, hey, can we see your receipt? You don't have to say anything. You can just leave. They can't keep you there.
Granted, they could ban you from the store if they wanted.
They could ban you from the store if they wanted to. They could, call the police, I guess, but they might get in trouble for, calling the police for no reason.
If they have a peace officer or a police officer and they have reasonable suspicion that you did steal something, they could arrest you or stop you. But
yes, I mean, they could always try to citizens arrest you or something like that, but if they got it wrong, man, are they in trouble.
I guess the moral is don't ever detain another human being unless you are an officer of the law.
Or unless you are, like, if you see someone beating someone up, you can detain them.
Yeah, but
or if you see, if you see someone, hit someone with their car and try to run away, you can detain them too, probably. You'll be fine, I imagine.
But if
in
someone
most
opened
cases.
your Simpsons bust, you can't lock them in your store and demand payment.
That's just the tough shit rule. So also, if you own a store, don't put anything expensive in a precarious position.
Yes, because then it's your fault if it breaks.
Yes. Oh, and one last thing. If you go out of a store, just like the receipt, if the security system goes off, you can just keep walking also. However, I give you 2 pieces of advice. Number 1, if you're shopping for clothing, you probably want to turn around because you're not going to be able to get those tags off at home without getting ink all over your clothes.
Yep.
And number 2, you might want to look in your bag before you just keep walking, because what if someone slips something in there and you are shoplifting and you don't know it?
Or what if you just forgot and you have something in your pocket or an extra bag or something under the cart or whatever?
Yep. But if you're sure that you're not shoplifting and you're sure that, all the security devices have been removed from your products so that you can take them home and not worry about it, and the security thing goes off when you walk through, don't even hesitate. Just keep walking.
See, I'm usually
Don't
nice.
run. Just keep walking.
See, if they ask for my receipt and it's not an inconvenience, I'll just stop and show it to them because I don't care. But generally, it's been the case where I'll be trying to leave a Best Buy or something, and there'll be a line at the receipt checker guy because there's only one guy and a bunch of people trying to leave, and there's no way I'm waiting. I'm only going to stop if it's convenient.
It's basically never convenient for me.
I'm never in that much of a hurry. The 2 seconds as I wave the receipt at him, and then he nods me by. He doesn't even look
Maybe
at
I
it.
could have a policy of throw the receipt at the guy and keep walking.
Yeah, fashion it into a paper airplane, be like, here you go.
Yep.
What'd be really funny is if you'd written on the receipt, I stole a TV.
And then if I didn't, what would happen if they called the police?
I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, that would be kind of a weird situation. Like, you're sort of lying that you committed a crime.
But not to a police officer, not under oath,
I
not
know,
as part of
it's-
an investigation. And it's not illegal in and of itself to lie.
Yeah, I know. I mean, what if I tell you, hey, Rim, I killed somebody?
I think you're within your rights to do that. However, I think by the same token...
But then if you call the police and I didn't kill someone, can I get in trouble?
See, I think by the same token, the worst that would happen is the police would have the right to investigate you.
Oh, yeah, that would yeah.
Because, I figured...
I think it does create a probable cause.
See, I think the punishment for that, while it is not a punishment of law, like, all right, you broke the law by lying, whatever, the punishment is you've now got the attention of the police, and they're probably slightly displeased with you.
Ah, okay. Okay. All right.
The hunger
Oh, good God.
is never ending with the wolf.
Good God.
All right. This is unequivocally the worst music video ever made.
I mean, remember that Willow whatever?
That's got nothing on this.
This is worse than that.
So all I'm going to say, and I really think you need to watch this, and I'll warn you, the song might get stuck in your head. I'm having some trouble.
It's so bad, though. I don't know how it happens.
But it is. It's stuck in my head. I keep thinking about it. I have to force it out with other things.
But yeah, it's so bad.
Basically, this is the kind of thing that would have been awesome to me when I was 12.
I would never be awesome to me.
I don't know, maybe not this specifically, but the kind of aesthetic of the dark and brooding, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But
Maybe for a goth kid.
more importantly,
Emo kid.
this is very much reminiscent of pretty much everything that I saw, like every personality trait that I saw in many of the LARPers that we knew back at RIT.
That's what it is.
Like, I think the moment that really crystallized that for me was when he falls into the middle of a White Wolf LARP, basically, and all the vampires sitting at their tables in their cloaks walk toward him menacingly.
Yeah, that was sort of out there.
Basically-
Also, the poorly rendered Anubis.
When Anubis slaps him, and then they go on a vacation to Bad CG Egypt,
Yeah.
on the Bad CG boat, on the Bad CG Nile.
Oh my God, this is. Some things are so bad that they're good because they're so bad that you laugh at how bad it is. This is just so bad.
But yet, at the same time,
This is worse than like Great Digital Target.
it's almost mesmerizing. You have trouble looking away.
No, I don't have any trouble looking away.
Now, what's really funny is that if you look at this, I'm reasonably certain that one, the guy who did it, the main guy, somehow feels that this is indicative of the feelings he feels inside. Two, I'd wager there's a girl he likes who's with some other guy who isn't crazy, and he feels like they should be together, and this is kind of a cry for help to her to show her how he really feels. I also think that he basically wrote a fan fiction about himself and then Mary sued himself into it.
Yep, all those things are true. Also, I'm pretty sure the guy who made this thinks that this is actually really good when it's the worst thing ever. So I wonder, what sort of movies and TV shows and books does he like? Now I know who's buying all those really crappy books in the sci-fi
He
section.
probably plays White Wolf, but with his own variant because he dislikes the cam and their political bullshit. He probably LARPs to the exclusion of all else. I'll bet he wears a lot of black. I'll bet he's a neo-pagan.
Yeah.
I'll bet he didn't graduate from college.
Yep.
And that's it.
I would not bet against you.
I recommend watching this once and never, ever watching it again.
If you need to show it to someone else, just send them a link. Don't watch it with them. Or at least turn it on and then walk out of the room. Because watching it more than once is probably going to damage you somehow.
God, that's kind of like the Goatsy bomb. Go to a website that'll show a Goatsy after a couple minutes and then just leave the room.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Anyway, what do you got for me?
So it's video game action here. Basically, it's a video on YouTube. And I'd say this video is an ingenious work of art.
I'll agree in that it was exactly what I expected, which was somewhat unexpected. I know that sounds strange, but that's how I feel.
Yep, and this video is called Goomba's Lifetime. It shows you the life of a Goomba, and there's not much else to say about it.
It's art. What can we say?
That's it.
Right. So we bought a bunch of board games a while ago that we keep talking about how we're going to talk about. And this past weekend, we did something we haven't done in a long time. Instead of having no one over, or the entire front row crew over, we had one person over. And we played board games pretty much all weekend.
We haven't had one of those in a long time. It was pretty awesome.
Particularly the fact that we played Tigris and Euphrates, which is still far and away
2 times.
my favorite game ever.
Yeah, it's the
However,
best game.
I do want to get this gripe out into the world since now I have an audience for it. I won the first game pretty handily, but no biggie. The second game, while I might not have won it, I definitely would not have lost so much had Scott not given the game to Alex entirely.
That was sort of accidental there.
Scott built a gigantic point-generating machine and then basically said, Alex, I entrust this to you. And then he proceeded to bumble around the board for the next 20 minutes.
I had a plan in which I would retain control of that point-generating machine. I also had a backup plan.
Scott?
And both of those plans failed miserably.
I don't think you thought your clever plan quite all the way through.
No, not all the way through. Only as much of the way through as I usually think it, which is it's sufficient most of the time, but it's not as sometimes it just goes downhill. What can you do about it?
course, Pete, who has a good history of winning the game, ended up losing. And I note that this was one of the few times he deviated from his classic strategy of fill one corner of the board with squares.
Yeah, that is all. That's pretty much the default strategy. You know, in order to win, you have to beat that. And in order to lose, you got to do worse than that. So it's sort of like the guaranteed average, strategy. And then if you can pull off a couple great moves on top of that, like some big external conflicts and maybe a monument, you're got a good chance of winning the game with that one.
Man, that's a good game. I want to talk about it again sometime, but if you guys buy Tigris and Euphrates,
right.
it's great. But anyway, we're not talking about that tonight.
Yep. So if you go to BoardGameGeek.com, the number 1 game is Puerto Rico.
All right.
The number 2 game is Tigris and Euphrates.
All right.
The number 4 game is Kalis.
Now, I would say that these are my number 1, 2, and 4 games.
The number 3 game, a game that we haven't played ever until I bought it just a week or two ago. Think about that. The number 1, 2, and 4 games, we bought them, and we played them a whole lot. Number 3 game, didn't play. I played it 2 or 3. We played it 3 times now, right?
Yep. I've won 2 of those 3. Just going to get that out there.
The number 3 game I've played 3 times in my life, and I just bought it recently, is called Power Grid.
We had heard about Power Grid often from many people.
Yep.
We'd always seen it, wanted it, thought about it, just never ended up getting it, and I, to this day,
I've
can't
seen it at
say
all
why.
kinds of conventions, and it's just one of those, we could only get so many games at once, and it was just we never chose to get it.
I don't know why not. Of course, now we
basically wasn't a reason why not. It was just there never was a reason to get it.
But now, we're looking at the top 10 on Board Game Geek, and we realize that we love and own, or have at least played, pretty much all of them.
Yeah, we need to get the Princess of Florence.
Almost all of them.
Yep. So, Power Grid. The first thing about Power Grid is that the art on the box and the pieces and the cards, I like it a lot. It's really cool.
I don't know what it is. Like, the theme is very unified. Kind of like Tigris and Euphrates, where the theme is not important. The theme has nothing to do with the game proper, other than, adding flavor and making it make sense more. But it really feels good.
I like the way the cards look. I like the way the power plants are drawn.
I like the fact...
I like all the wooden cubes. I like the box. It's just awesome.
I like the fact that 2 of the power plants, there's 2 wind power plants, right? They both produce the same amount of power. One of them just costs somewhat significantly more money. And the only difference in the art between the 2 is that the more expensive one has one more tiny little wind turbine in the background that doesn't do anything.
So... The next thing you notice about this game is the rule book. Now, I read the rule book before playing the game, because usually when I get a new board game, I just read the rules and I look at all the pieces, and, I read the rules 2 or 3 times before we actually play. And the rules, at least the English rules in the Rio Grande version of Power Grid, which I assume is the version you're going to get if you buy it, like we tell you to, they're written really poorly.
They're not the worst rules I've ever read, but they're really, really bad. And technically, a lot of the game is actually kind of ambiguous. The only reason we know what to do is because you make assumptions.
Yes, and there's a lot of things the game doesn't explicitly say, but your safe and reasonable assumption, it is correct 99% of the time. But I can't have a rule book that leaves me assuming the rules. That doesn't work for me. We need to have every rule written down. Now, granted, you can take this argument to the extreme and say, well, do you need the rules to say, take your thumb and forefinger and clasp the wooden cube with enough force so that the friction will prevent it from falling out of your hands when you elevate your arm? You don't need that. But you do need to have enough rules so that someone who knows the English language and knows, has a big enough vocabulary will not have any questions after they read the rules.
At least it's not like Tikal, which was okay, but they had fluff. They had extra information in the rules that had no bearing on the game and wasn't even historical or interesting. Like, you can move guys around. So in the rules it says, the guys move via secret tunnels.
Yeah.
Great, I needed to know that.
They teleport, basically.
Secret tunnel. Secret tunnel.
There are no actual secret tunnels in Tikal. They just teleport.
Yeah, but they tell you there's secret tunnels for no good... Never mind.
Yes. So, once you get past that, the next problem in Power Grid, good art, bad rules. The other thing is that once you do understand all the rules, even if you understand them perfectly, some of the rules are kind of arbitrary. Like, there's just a table on the back of the instruction book that says you have this number of players, Is this the circumstance in the current game? Well, this is how many new resources come into play, and there's a table. I don't like tables. Tables are no good. It's There's other arbitrary rules, too, like, if this happens and this happens, then remove a card from the game and put it here and put a card there, and it's sort of annoying a little bit.
Your best bet is to play this game at a con or somewhere where someone else, at least one person, knows the rules inside and out and has already played, so they can teach you how to play and then play the first game with you, and then you'll be set.
You'll be set because people who know how to play the game know how to play the game. Now, once you get beyond those two things, though, Power Grid is awesome. I don't know how they pulled it off where all these arbitrary rules actually work really well, but all these arbitrary, confusing rules work really well.
I think what I really like about the game is that it has the wooden cube game feel, because there's different kinds of board games. There's the tile lane games, the exploration games, whatever. But the cube games, the wooden cube games, there's a bunch of wooden cubes and you manipulate them around the board, always have this kind of really hardcore feel to them. And I always liked them a lot. Like El Grande is a good example of that.
Yep.
And while this isn't really a wooden cube game, I feel the same feeling playing it that I feel playing a wooden cube game. Like, it gives me that feeling of beating my brain against a difficult and somewhat unsolvable math problem where I know that I can't figure out the perfect optimal move, and I have to make a decision and a compromise.
Well, what Power Grid does, I think, is there are many different general genres of German board game. There's the bidding game, there's the territory, game, there's the tile laying game, and stuff like that. Power Grid is a bidding game, a economics management game, and a territory graph sort of manipulation game all in one. It's like 3 separate games all at once that all intertwine.
Yep. I mean,
And
basically,
it's really cool.
you want to generate power for houses that you put on the board. And you build houses on the board, and you can make connections through the nodes, and different connections cost different amounts of money. So you have to deal with all that. And you power these with power plants that you bid on. And each power plant requires a different kind of fuel and a different amount of a different kind of fuel and powers different amounts of houses.
More expensive power plants are either more efficient, meaning they make more electricity for less resources, or they make more electricity for more resources. It kind of goes in a cycle. Like, first, there'll be a power plant that makes, 2 electricity for 3 coal. Then there'll be one that makes 2 electricity for 2 coal. Then there'll be one that makes 3 electricity for 3 coal. And, then there'll be 3 electricity for 2 coal, and 4 electricity for 3 coal, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on.
Now, the market dynamics are really interesting. I mean, say coal gets more and more out there. There's more coal coming out throughout the game until the end when it starts to dry up. So by the mid-game, there's a ton of coal coming out. But if 3 different players all have a bunch of coal power plants, suddenly coal starts becoming really expensive and really rare.
Yeah, because the same number of coals are going to come into the game every turn, and you have 3 people buying them. If you don't get to buy them first, and other people buy them first, then you're going to have to buy really expensive coal or not buy coal, and it's pretty cool.
So a lot of the game is trying to stay ahead of the curve, figuring out what other people have and what other people want, and trying to always put yourself in the market where you can buy what you need to run your power plants for the least money.
Yeah, basically the way the game goes, in summary, because I'm not going to go through all the crazy rules,
God.
is that on your turn, we auction off power plants, and at most you can buy 1 power plant per turn, right? So everyone buys a power plant, and if there's a really good one out there, everyone's going to fight over it. And if there's a crappy one, no one will buy it. And
God, I love the bidding, just because of the way we play. Like, there'll be a power plant that comes out and the minimum bid is 40. And Scott and I go back and forth, and it'll be like 40, 41, 42,
100,
101,
300.
302.
Yeah.
For some reason, I really enjoy that.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun bidding, and you're trying to get better power plants, and that's pretty much it. Having better power plants is super important, but at the same time, you don't want to spend too much because right after you buy power plants, you have to buy resources to power those power plants. And basically, everyone takes 1 turn, and whoever's in last place goes first, and they get to buy as many resources as they can hold. They don't have to buy that many, but they can. They can buy as many or as little as they want, up to the amount they can hold in their storage areas, which are your power plants. And Then the next person buys, and the next person buys, and the next person buys, until everyone had a turn buying resources. And basically, each turn, at the end of the turn, more resources come out. And then after you buy power plants, everyone buys all the resources. And that's it. Now, when more resources come out, they get cheaper because there's more out there. And when people buy them, they get more expensive because there's less out there.
Yep,
It's
and
a
there's
little supply and demand going on.
There's 4 kinds of resources: coal, oil, trash, and uranium.
Yep.
And like uranium starts out really expensive and gets cheaper as time goes on, and trash gets cheaper as time goes on, and oil gets slightly cheaper, and coal gets more expensive, and there's all these sorts of dynamics.
Yep. It depends a whole lot, but there are also power plants, like mostly wind, solar, and fusion at the end, that give you electricity without using any resources. And they're pretty good. They're really good. But at the same time, they also cost a lot more than power plants that use resources. And they're also not capable of producing as much electricity total. Like the fusion, I think, makes 5 or 6, right?
Yeah.
And there's a trash one that makes 7, which is a big deal. After everyone buys resources, you put houses on the map. And I'm not going to go through all the details of putting houses on the map, but basically, it costs money to put houses on the map. You're trying to get as many houses on the map as you can because, let's say I have 3 power plants that make a total of 10 electricity. If I only have 9 houses, that means I can only power 9 houses, even though I would normally be able to power 10 houses.
Yep, a power plant that powers 3 no matter what if you power, even if you only have 1 house.
Yep. So if you want to get, the maximum, bang for your buck, you want to have the same number of houses as you can power. That way you didn't buy extra houses you can't power.
Granted,
And
I'll note that I've won 2 of the 3 times we played, and
I'm just saying,
I didn't do that at all.
I'm just saying that's the way to get the most bang for your buck, not the way to win.
Nah.
Yeah. And you don't want to have more power plants than you have houses, because then you're making all this electricity you're not using.
Anyway, suffice to say, the game is a race to the finish of who builds. Once someone builds a certain number of houses, then the game is going to end, and then at that point, whoever powers the most houses wins, not whoever has the most houses.
Yep. For example,
so the end of the game, I don't think we need to go into the details of that.
No.
At all.
But I'm saying there was an awesome game we played. The second game we played where we thought the game was going to end in 2 turns.
And I realized, wait a minute, Alex did one thing, so he wasn't going to power all his stuff this turn to save up money to bust out next turn.
He thought the game was going to end in 2 turns. He purposefully did not buy resources. That way he could buy a whole bunch on the last turn and win. Rim ended the game that turn instead of the next turn. Alex was unable to power because he didn't buy resources, and he super lost even though he was, I guess, technically ahead of me.
I had fewer houses than anyone, but I could power more of them at that one instant where I ended the game. It was awesome.
Yep, that was a good move.
One thing I really like about the game is that, like Scott said, the last player goes first. This game is the opposite of Age of Steam. The catch-up mechanics are very well crafted, and you can't lose the game based on a bad decision early on. You can have a bad time of it, but you're always going to be progressing, and if you screw up and no one else screws up, you're still going to lose. But in general, every round you reset the turn order, and whoever's doing the worst gets a little bit of a boost. Every round.
Yup, and it's actually really well balanced, even though it's kind of arbitrary and, the rules are kind of eh. But I guess the fact that it's arbitrary, it was coldly calculated to be exactly perfect, where if you just decide to suck on purpose and stay last, you're not going to get enough of a boost to help you beat everyone. That's not going to happen.
I don't know. I think you will, because I often would keep myself in last place for a long time.
But you can win. You're not precluded from winning. It's not like, I'm in last, I can't catch up, but you're not guaranteed to win by staying in last.
Yeah.
It's not this, by sucking, I can win.
I think my point was more that kind of like a choir where you want to shoot for second place to actually win the game.
Yep.
In this game, it's even like when you play Initial D with the rubber band effect on. Advanced players use the rubber band, they use the catch-up mechanism on purpose in order to get an advantage over other players.
Yes, for example, if I have the best power plants on the board, right? They're super efficient, and I have a lot of money, it might be, and often is, opportunistic to not build any houses in a turn. Everyone else will build houses, maybe, and thus, I will go last, even though I'm probably in the most powerful position in the game. Thus, next turn, I combine that boost of going first and buying resources first, along with my super efficient power plants and my current fistful of dollars, and I take a double jump ahead, and now I'm way ahead. Beat that. You can use it pretty smartly.
I mean, it's a fantastic game. I think we're eventually going to get sick of it, but not anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, this game definitely does feel like a game that could be figured out to a point where you just be like, yep. But there's so much to it. I mean, I'd probably first have to figure out, the houses optimization, which I think I'm getting close to that. And then you got to figure out the resource buying optimization. It's sort of like, it's not any harder to solve than any other game, but I have to solve 3 or 4 games.
Well, also,
so
because
it's
so
game to
arbitrary,
solve.
a lot of people make alternate maps for it, and they all work fine. The game just deals with it because it's a market.
Yeah.
So whatever you modify the game to do by changing power plants or adding power plants or changing maps, the game's still going to work because the market evens everything out. So the moment we solve the game, all we have to do is add a bunch of power plants and change the rules a little bit.
I do think that's very cool is that the designer of this game, Friedman Fries, who's a cool German guy with green hair, he's like all punk awesomeness. He said that he designed the original map based on realistic Germany, or at least what he thought, general German geography and such.
Didn't he say that he didn't take game balance into account at all?
Pretty much. And the map works just fine. And the map pretty much you could just make any random map for this game, and it'll most likely just work because everyone is playing on the exact same map. It's a perfectly even playing field. So the map could just be like, completely random, and the game would probably work just fine.
Now, this game is no Tigris and Euphrates. It's not the best game I've ever played.
Not.
However, if you like a hard-hitting, hardcore German board gaming experience, this game is right up your alley.
If you like power plants and electricity and cool graphics and playing with little wooden coals and oil barrels and uraniums, it's also a good game.
And on that note, I kind of want to fry some rice, so I think we're done.
You're done? That was pretty quick.
Not really. We've gone on long enough, I think.
All right.
Plus, we've been kind of filling up the Libsyn with a lot of long episodes lately.
Okay, good.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.